Even the best knife will lose its sharpness over time. But what does sharpness actually mean? Sharpness is generally perceived subjectively. Objectively, a knife is said to be sharp when you can use it to easily cut through a normal sheet of paper. But why do we need a knife to be sharp? A sharp knife is safer than a blunt one because less effort is required when cutting. Cutting is more precise, food is cut more cleanly, and you are able to work more quickly and easily. A knife can only cut as well as the sharpness of its blade allows. Regular use of a good knife sharpener is essential for maintaining the sharpness of the blade. If the knife has not been sharpened for some time, the cutting edge becomes rounded and dull. The cutting edge needs to be treated to re-establish its sharpness. It is easy to sharpen your knife if you have the right tool and know how to use it correctly. Zwilling has several options available for sharpening your knives. For example, you could use a sharpening stone. Using a sharpening stone to sharpen your knives is easier than you think. If your knives have a rounded edge, the differing coarseness of the sharpening stone material helps to remove unwanted material along the blade and restore the blade's original cutting geometry. We'll now show you how to sharpen your knife correctly with a sharpening stone using the Twin Stone Pro. Each side of the stone has a different grain. A coarser grain on one side for minor damage, dents and chips, and a fine-grained side for final fine honing. Twin Stone Pro stones do not need a long wetting time. Simply pour a little water into the tray of the Twin Stone Pro. Briefly lay the coarse-grained side of the stone in the water until no dry patches are visible. Then place the fine-grained side back into the tray. First, grind the blade with the coarse-grained side of the sharpening stone. There are different ways of drawing the blade over the stone. We're going to show you one method that is easy to learn. We recommend dividing blades measuring more than 180 mm into 3 sections: the tip, the middle, and end or heel of the blade. Throughout the sharpening process, it is important to maintain the correct grinding angle, usually 15 degrees for European knives and 10 degrees for Japanese-style knives. Use 2 coins to help you judge the correct grinding angle. Speed is unimportant here. Start with the tip of the knife. Exert even moderate pressure when you draw the knife across the stone. Using fluid movements, move on to the other parts of the blade, from the tip to the middle to the heel of the blade. Check that you have successfully sharpened your knife by cleaning the knife and then gently running the tip of your thumb over the cutting edge on the rear side of the sharpened blade. You should feel an even burr along the entire length of the blade. Do this with care, as there is a risk that you could injure yourself. If you cannot feel the burr along the entire length, resharpen the blade on the stone at that point. Make sure that the stone is still sufficiently moistened. Stop sharpening your knife when you can feel a continuous burr along the entire length of the blade. Then repeat the process on the other side of the blade. The water, stone, and grinding dust produces a polishing paste, which optimizes the sharpening result. Therefore, do not remove it during the sharpening process. Then sharpen your knife blade in the same way on the fine-grained side of the stone. You will usually feel a slight burr on this side as well. To finally remove this burr, draw both sides of the blade in turn in an arc over the stone at the same time as exerting moderate pressure. End the process when you can no longer feel a burr on either side. Use a cloth to clean the sharpened knife and check how successful the sharpening process has been by testing the knife on a tomato or a sheet of newspaper. You will also need the finer Twin Finishing Stone Pro for ultra-sharp polishing. Sharpen your knife in the same way as with the Twin Stone Pro. Normally, 3 different kinds of material are used for sharpening steels. Sharpening steels with a chrome-plated ridged body realign the misaligned cutting edge. They remove very little material from the blade, are relatively insensitive to damage, and ideal for daily use. We recommend the use of a sharpening steel with a ceramic body for more seriously blunted knives. They are significantly harder and do not just restore the misaligned cutting edge to its original alignment, but produce an even sharper angle by removing even more material. Sharpening steels with a diamond-covered rod produce an even finer sharpening effect. Should you no longer achieve noticeable success using the sharpening steel, we would recommend the use of a sharpening stone. You can restore the original cutting geometry by using its different degrees of coarseness. We're now going to show you how to sharpen knives with a sharpening steel, in this case using a ceramic sharpening rod. There are many ways of holding the steel. Simplest of all, hold the sharpening steel with its tip pointing down on a flat surface. Position the knife blade at a 15-degree angle to the steel. Use the end of the handle of the sharpening steel as a guide. Exerting moderate pressure on the sharpening steel, draw the knife downwards along the steel in a slightly curved action. It is crucial that you maintain the angle of approximately 15 degrees and that you draw the entire cutting edge from the heel of the blade to the tip of the knife along the sharpening steel. Speed is unimportant here. Repeat this movement several times on both sides of the blade. Use a cloth to clean the sharpened knife and check how successful the sharpening process has been by testing the knife on a tomato or a sheet of newspaper. Use Zwilling knife sharpeners to sharpen your knives easily and safely. Another possible option is the Zwilling Sharp Pro. The Zwilling Sharp Pro knife sharpener is suitable for both right and left-handed users. The large ceramic discs enable you to sharpen your knives safely and evenly. With the two settings, you can choose between preliminary honing and final fine honing. You can also use the Zwilling Sharp Pro to sharpen Japanese blades. Place the rubber feet of the Zwilling Sharp Pro on a level surface. Hold the handle part of the knife sharpener in your right or left hand so that your thumb and forefinger are touching. Make sure that the knife blade to be sharpened is clean and dry. First, perform a preliminary honing if your knife is very blunt. To do so, press setting 1 so that the ceramic roller remains fixed. Insert the knife into the sharpening slot with the cutting edge facing downwards and pull it towards your body, exerting slight pressure from the heel of the blade to the tip, not vice versa. Insert the knife again and repeat this procedure a few times. In the next stage, or with only slightly blunt knives, use fine honing. Setting 2. This time the ceramic roller turns as well during the grinding process. Pull the knife several times through the grinding slot. Never press the cutting edge onto the rollers. Use a cloth to clean the sharpened knife and check how successful the sharpening process has been by testing the knife on a tomato or a sheet of newspaper. The Twin Sharp Select is suitable for both right and left-handed users. Thanks to the separate sharpening modules, you can choose between a coarse honing and a final fine honing. Place the rubber feet of the Twin Sharp Select on a level surface. Hold the handle part of the knife sharpener in your right or left hand so that your thumb and forefinger are touching. Make sure that the knife blade to be sharpened is clean and dry. If your knife is very blunt, first use Module 1. Insert the knife into the sharpening slot with the cutting edge facing downwards and pull it towards your body, exerting slight pressure from the heel of the blade to the tip. Repeat this process several times. In the next stage, or with only slightly blunt knives, it is usually sufficient to use Module 2. Pull the knife several times through the grinding slot. Never press the cutting edge onto the rollers. Use a cloth to clean the sharpened knife and check how successful the sharpening process has been by testing the knife on a tomato or a sheet of newspaper. Sharpen your knives easily and safely with the Twin Sharp. Place the rubber feet of the Twin Sharp on a level surface. Hold the handle part of the knife sharpener in your hand so that your thumb and forefinger are touching. Make sure that the knife blade to be sharpened is clean and dry. Insert the knife into the sharpening slot with the cutting edge facing downwards and pull it towards your body, exerting slight pressure from the heel of the blade to the tip. Repeat this process several times. Never press the cutting edge onto the rollers. Use a cloth to clean the sharpened knife and check how successful the sharpening process has been by testing the knife on a tomato or a sheet of newspaper.